Dubious ones, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're just covering a little wrestling news, mainly focused on AEW and the brilliance of Tony Khan. Now, if you're not familiar, this past weekend we had Dynasty, which was arguably, one would say, perhaps pay-per-view of the year, where it definitely had a match of the year contender, if not two of them on the same show. Between Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson, one of the greatest pro wrestling matches I've ever seen in my life, was absolutely phenomenal. And then it followed with an incredible tag team ladder match. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Well, Tony Khan, as I'm sure you're very familiar, posted the footage. They showed the footage of the CM Punk, Jack Perry, all-in scuffle, and everybody thought, what a terrible look for the company. Has Tony Khan lost his mind? They shouldn't have shown that. Looks ridiculous. Bad look for the company. Looks childish. Looks terrible. Well, under the guise of this is why the Young Bucks would not be able to win and beat FTR at All In because they had EVP duties and couldn't focus on the match. And that was the lame, people were thinking, storyline that was going with this whole matter. And it just sounded like, it went over like a fart in church. It did not go over well. But then we saw after airing the footage, Jack Perry was at the New Japan event in Chicago. He got a huge reception in Chicago. Positive, negative. Fans are going crazy for him. He was doing all kinds of spots. Okada spots, Young Bucks spots, all kinds of crazy stuff, and got a crazy reception for it, as he should. It was apparently a great event. And then what happened at Dynasty? Well, we got to the tag team title match, the ladder match, that had to follow, again, one of the greatest pro wrestling matches I've ever seen in Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay. And they blew it out of the water. They knocked it out of the park, hit a massive, massive home run with that ladder match. Was absolutely incredible, start to finish. FTR and the Young Bucks killed each other in that match. It was bananas. I loved it. But at the end of the match, when it looks like Dax Harwood's about to pull down the tag titles, spoiler alert, fan hops the barricade, comes in, knocks him off the ladder. Young Bucks win. Why? Because Jack Perry, as security grabs the fan, they pull off the mask. It's Jack Perry under the mask. And the fans go crazy. So that was great. The whole pay-per-view as a whole, the last three matches, made that pay-per-view incredible. The opening match with Okada was great. The last three matches on the card, absolutely incredible. For me, definitely one of the pay-per-views of the year. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to go check it out. It was a great pay-per-view. But then we had this follow-up AEW Dynamite. And what happened? Well, not a whole lot. It was, a very lackluster follow-up to the pay-per-view. I felt, in my mind, Swerve was in an opening match. I feel like he should have maybe not had a match. Or at least not to open the show. Should have had a chance to celebrate, cut a promo, have a big celebration, maybe a video package, something other than just a random throwaway match on Dynamite. But that is what it is. We got the big main event with Jon Moxley defending the New Japan Pro Wrestling Heavyweight title against Powerhouse Hobbs. But after that, the real main event was Tony Khan was going to come out and have a chat with Jack Perry in the middle of the ring. Jack Perry said his piece. They said, let's shake hands. You took 9 months of my career away. Let's shake hands. Make it all better. Blah, blah, blah. They shake hands. Jack Perry gives a smile to the camera and then looks over, raises Tony Khan's hand, and then boom, socks him right in the gut, punches him right in the gut. And then the EVPs, the Young Bucks, come out. Okada comes out with them, saying, what are you guys doing? What's going on here? They set him up. It looks like the EVPs are going for the EVP trigger. Okada says, no, guys, what are you doing? Then he goes, bring him up. They hit him with the Meltzer driver. They hit him with the TK driver, the Tony Khan driver. And what brilliant marketing this is, because I don't know if you're familiar. If you're a wrestling fan, you may not be aware of this, but the day after Dynamite, Thursday, was the NFL draft day. Tony Khan knew he'd be getting a lot of press over this. So what did Tony Khan do? The man wore his neck brace, a la Vince McMahon in the steroid trial. He wore a neck brace, to the event and got incredible news coverage. Let's take a look at this, as I thought this was absolutely amazing. Here we're getting coverage all over the place. Tony Khan becomes the first NFL executive in a draft room, shaking off the effects of a pile driver.
As Tony Khan becomes the first ever NFL executive in a draft room, shaking off the effects of a pile driver he received on national television in a wrestling ring the night before. As Tony Khan becomes the first ever
NFL executive in a draft room, shaking off the effects of a pile driver from the night before on national television. And of course, his dad looking incredible with the amazing mustache, the real final boss right here, Shad Khan. But we get this not only from wrestling purists, we get not only the NFL covering this. Absolutely hilarious. But even better, what I thought, Pat McAfee, he's even tweeting it out. Tony Khan is in a neck brace. We have Pat McAfee of the WWE, Monday Night Raw announcer Pat McAfee, or maybe he's SmackDown. I think he's Monday Night Raw. And
the last thing we need is for him to look like Tony Khan, who took a Meltzer driver just the other night. Wednesday night, he took a Meltzer driver, I do believe.
That's right.
Guy's got a broken neck, and he's battling through so he can pick up Brian Thomas Jr., and that mustache is never not going to be sweet. And Doug Peterson's 3 seats away going, the fuck is going on? Back to Trevor Lawrence, though. Go ahead, Matt Bell.
Well, I was just going to say, I understand, keeping up with the gimmick. Someone should tell Tony Khan, hey, if you have a neck brace on, don't fucking move around like nothing's wrong. You stick with the gimmick and look straight ahead like your neck's broken, okay? What are we doing here?
Thank you.
Okay, well,
about time.
Last thing we
need. A lot of fun was had here, but I have to say, all this coverage that Tony Khan is getting from the NFL draft, being in the neck brace, it's brilliant. It's a thing of beauty. It's absolutely hilarious. It makes for some great visuals, but it's getting Dynamite. It's getting coverage on the product. People are talking about Dynamite. They're talking about about Tony Khan, about the draft, about the pile driver, I even called it the Meltzer driver. Pat McAfee called it, this stuff to me, absolutely hilarious. So I have to take back anything negative I said about them airing the footage of Jack Perry, because this is long-term storytelling, whether they wanted it or not. AEW finally gave us some long-term booking and storytelling throughout the weeks. If it was all leading to this, to draft day, or if this was a happy accident that they just decided we're going to do this because I know the draft's tomorrow, this is going to be great press for us. And this week's Dynamite's ratings were they dropped under 700,000 this week, I believe. Like, terrible ratings this week. But I have to imagine this is going to drive a little bit of interest, and I would love to see what next week's Dynamite numbers do after this, because he's getting a lot of press over it. And you just have to believe, man, that guy, he knows what he's doing. Not as dumb as he looks. I'm sold on it. I love Dynasty. I didn't love Dynamite, but I loved the closing angle to Dynamite. I love Shad Khan. He looks like a boss. That mustache is incredible. His dad literally needs to be the final boss of AEW. That would be amazing. I'd love to hear him cut a promo, as many people have been stating. But I decided to get this out there because it's absolutely hilarious now that we've had NFL Draft Day and we had Tony Khan in the neck brace getting coverage all over media, all over sports media, and that to me is wonderful. It's shining a light on the product. And I mean, we've got Pat McAfee, WWE announcer, on his YouTube or on his, Pat McAfee show, on his Twitter, posting these clips. I mean, that's great. I think it's a wonderful thing. Anyways, dubious ones, sound off in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Did you watch Dynasty? Did you enjoy Dynasty? What was your favorite match on the card? And what did you think of this angle? I thought it was amazing. Seeing him in the neck brace and everything. Oh, you know what? I'm happy with Tony Khan being a character on my television screen now if he's going to go the full mile like this, because that was hilarious. And we need to see more of his dad on camera because that man looks like a boss. Anyways, dubious ones, that's going to do it for this one. Catch you in the next one.
Like, comment, and subscribe.